Hi guys, my name is Stephanie and I am back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to clean your Bagless vacuum cleaner. As you can see, I'm working on a Bissell Clean View that's about 10 years old. I love this vacuum. You can usually get it for I think it's probably under $120 these days, but it's one of my favorite vacuums, especially for the price because the suction is great on it. But if your suction starts to fail, it's probably because you have a clog and you need to give it a good deep clean. So I'm going to go over how to completely clean inside and outside of your vacuum cleaner, how to remove any clogs in the vacuum cleaner hose, and how to replace the filters and clean the brushes really well so that your vacuum is working just as good as it did the day you bought it. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to empty the dirt tank. Now, I normally recommend doing this outside. I'm doing this inside just for the video, but it can get really dusty. So doing this in your garage or outside is the best option. After that, I twist the Cyclone counterclockwise and pull down on it to remove that from the inside of the dirt tank. Then I removed as much of the dirt and dust and debris that you see on there as you can before moving on to giving this a good wash. So we're doing a deep clean. We're going to be giving this a good wash with a mild detergent. But normally, after just cleaning the Cyclone and the dustbin, I go back to vacuuming with it. So this is a deep clean that we are going to want to do a couple times a year to maintain your vacuum and keep it working at its best. So now I'm using Dawn Power Wash to give this a really good scrub inside and out. You can use whatever dish cleaner that you like to use or any mild cleaner that you have on hand. Just use a nice soft brush to give it a good scrub and you'll be ready to let it dry for 24 hours before you put your vacuum back together. Also, be sure to rinse it off completely before you let it dry. Any soap residue that's left behind on your vacuum might be a good place for dirt to stick to in the future. So again, rinse off any soap that you use to clean your vacuum. After washing all visible parts of the Cyclone, I noticed just 2 screws were holding this part of the Cyclone together, so I decided to remove it and give that a good deep clean too, just in case any cat hair was hiding inside of that. Make sure that you keep all of the screws that you remove in this cleaning safe so that you can put your vacuum back together pretty easily. After giving the inside and the outside of the Cyclone a really good scrub, it's time to clean that tank. But first I needed to remove what they call the pre-motor filter, so that's at the top of this tank. Mine is full of cat hair at this point and it's covered in dust. You can wash these with a mild detergent or just hot water and let them air dry for 24 hours and then use them again. But I decided it's time to replace mine since it is so heavily thick with dust. I wanted to make sure that it was working really well and also just getting all of that dust out of my house. The new filters are really affordable too, so we'll install that in a minute. With that pre-motor filter removed, I went ahead and gave the tank a really good wash inside and out. Again, I'm using Power Wash, but you can use whatever dish detergent that you have on hand or even a mild cleaner like a Mrs. Meyer's all-purpose cleaner. Once I had that filter compartment really clean, I installed the new filter and shut that up. Then I finished cleaning the rest of that dirt tank before setting it aside and moving on to the hose. So next you're going to remove the hose from your vacuum cleaner and we're going to make sure it doesn't have any clogs or hair trapped in it by running the end of a broomstick through that hose. So after we clear that out and make sure that it's empty, then we're going to give it a really good wash in the sink, just like we did with the other stuff. I filled up this hose with really hot water and then I added some of the Power Wash. You could also just add a little dot of your dish detergent. And then I like to kind of move the hose around, kind of swirl that hot water around inside of the hose to try to loosen up all of that dirt and dust that's caked on the inside of your hose. You can even soak it in a sink of hot water and dish detergent for a couple of hours to really loosen all of that grime up before you rinse it out completely and let that air dry overnight. Next, I use an all-purpose cleaner and some paper towels to clean off the rest of the outside of my vacuum cleaner. I do have one more filter on this vacuum cleaner that also needs to be removed and replaced before I can put this vacuum cleaner back together. But first, let's clean out those brushes in the bottom of your vacuum cleaner. Of course, I had a lot more cat hair and other things tangled up in the bottom of this vacuum cleaner. Make sure you're always checking. Whenever you're emptying out your vacuum cleaner once a week or whenever you do it, make sure you're always checking the bottom of the vacuum cleaner because a lot of stuff can build up under there pretty quickly. I removed a couple of the pieces on the bottom of this vacuum cleaner with just a normal screwdriver again. Make sure that whenever you're disconnecting anything though, that you remember how to put it back together. You can always take a picture or a short video showing yourself doing it so that it's easy to remember how to put it back together. So once I had these parts off, I was able to see where the hose actually starts on this machine. So there's a small section of hose that's underneath of your vacuum, and a clog can easily build up in there pretty quickly. So if clearing the main hose doesn't actually give you the suction power back, you need to really check that small section of hose underneath the vacuum. I also need to clean off that roller brush really well. So I'm using a screwdriver to kind of break away all of that hair and little bits of string that build up on these things. You can also use scissors for this. That roller brush is removable on my Bissell, so I did pop it out so that I could actually get full access to that area of the machine. For this part of the job, I'm using an old bottle scrubbing brush to get that really clean, but you could also just use a normal dustbin brush that you have around the house. And don't forget, this is a dusty job, so you could do it outside or wear a mask when you're doing it if you need to. But that bottle brush is perfect for cleaning out that last little section of hose that's on the bottom of it. I really loved it for that job. It got all of the dust and hair that was left in there. After I finished doing that, I was ready to put the bottom of that vacuum cleaner back together. Again, make sure you put the parts back exactly the way that they started, or the machine might not work the way it's supposed to. The next day, I was ready to put all of my parts back onto my vacuum cleaner. Because the hose has so many grooves inside, I decided to use my blow dryer just to make sure that it's really dry. You could also do this the day before if you wanted to try to put your vacuum cleaner back together before 24 hours is up. Just be sure that you've got everything really dry, or any moisture that is inside those parts is going to attract more dust. I also replaced the second filter on this vacuum before I put everything back together, but putting this vacuum back together is actually really easy. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like when you took it apart. Everything snaps easily into place with this Bissell Clean View. That's pretty much it for how to clean a vacuum cleaner like this Bissell Clean View. As always, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I do try to answer them whenever I get a chance. All right? Good luck, guys.